In crypto, few projects have created as much debate, hope, confusion, and controversy as PI Network. For years, millions of people around the world opened their phones every single day, pressing one button, believing they were mining the future of cryptocurrency. Not with expensive mining machines, not with powerful computers, but directly from a mobile phone. And that idea alone changed everything. Because PI Network did something almost no crypto project achieved before. It made ordinary people believe they could become early investors in the next Bitcoin. The project grew incredibly fast. Millions joined, then tens of millions. Eventually, the PI community became one of the largest communities in all of crypto. And for many users, this was more than just a token. It became hope. Hope for financial freedom. Hope for life-changing wealth. Hope that years of mining would one day create massive profits. But now, years later, many investors are beginning to ask difficult questions. Why is the price struggling? Why are there still so many delays? Why are KYC problems still affecting users? And perhaps the biggest question of all, can PI Network actually survive its own tokenomics? At first, the concept behind PI sounded revolutionary. Mine crypto using a smartphone, build a global decentralized community, create a cryptocurrency accessible to ordinary people. And unlike Bitcoin, PI focused heavily on social growth instead of expensive hardware. This strategy worked perfectly because simplicity attracts mass adoption. Millions of people who knew almost nothing about blockchain joined the ecosystem. Families invited families. Friends invited friends. Entire communities began mining together. And that explosive growth created enormous hype around the project. But despite the massive community, one problem followed PI Network for years. Delays, repeated delays, mainnet delays, migration delays, KYC delays, roadmap delays, and eventually, many investors started becoming frustrated. Even today, many users still complain about being unable to fully access or migrate their tokens because of KYC problems. Coinlive.com+1. Some reports suggest millions of users remain stuck in verification processes. And for critics, this creates a dangerous problem. Because if users cannot fully access their coins, then the ecosystem itself remains partially locked. Supporters of PI argue the delays are necessary. They believe the team is trying to build something larger than a normal cryptocurrency, a massive identity-verified blockchain ecosystem. And to be fair, there is some logic behind that argument. The PI core team claims the network prioritizes verified human users over speed. Coinlive.com+1. But critics argue something else entirely. They believe the delays are slowly damaging trust inside the community. And trust is one of the most important assets any cryptocurrency can have. Because here is the reality. PI Network has existed for many years now. Yet many investors still feel the ecosystem lacks large-scale utility, major decentralized applications, strong exchange integration, and full open market maturity. That becomes dangerous when expectations become too large, because the longer people wait, the more pressure builds around the project. And then we arrive at perhaps the biggest issue surrounding PI Network: the supply. According to publicly available tokenomics, PI has a maximum supply of 100 billion tokens, the Crypto Times +1, but currently, only around 10 billion coins are estimated to be circulating publicly. The Crypto Times +1. And this creates an extremely important question investors must understand. If the price is already struggling, while only a small portion of supply circulates, What happens if much larger amounts enter the market later? Because token supply matters enormously in crypto. More circulating supply often creates more selling pressure, especially when millions of holders have been waiting years to cash out. This is exactly why many analysts remain cautious about PY's future price. Some reports estimate billions of additional PEI tokens could gradually unlock over time. The crypto times +1. And if demand does not grow fast enough to absorb those unlocks, price pressure could become severe. That does not automatically mean PI will fail, but it does mean the project faces enormous economic pressure moving forward. And perhaps even more controversial is the issue of wallet concentration. According to reports analyzing blockchain data, a very large percentage of PI's supply appears heavily concentrated among top wallets and foundation-controlled addresses. The crypto times +1. Some reports even claim the PI core team directly or indirectly controls enormous portions of total supply through treasury and ecosystem wallets. The crypto times +1. Now, to be fair, many blockchain projects reserve large allocations for ecosystem development. That alone is not unusual. But critics argue the level of concentration inside PI raises major decentralization concerns, because decentralization is supposed to be one of crypto's core principles. And whenever too much supply becomes concentrated, investors naturally begin asking difficult questions. Who controls liquidity? Who controls future unlocks? And how much influence does the team truly have over the ecosystem? At the same time, PI supporters continue defending the project aggressively. Many still believe PI could eventually become one of the largest payment ecosystems in crypto. Some supporters argue the massive global community itself gives PI enormous long-term potential. Reddit +1. Others believe the project is simply moving slowly because the team prioritizes security and compliance over hype. YouTube. And this is what makes PI so fascinating, because few projects create such extreme division between believers and critics. On one side, you have people calling PI revolutionary. On the other, you have investors accusing the project of endless delays, weak transparency, and unrealistic expectations. I invest +1, and the market itself appears trapped between those two narratives, hope and uncertainty. Now let's talk about price. Many PI holders expected explosive price growth after broader exchange access and market trading. Instead, the price experienced major volatility and sell-offs. Coin Central critics argue this happened because liquidity remained weak. Too many holders wanted to sell, utility remained limited, and confidence slowly weakened. Some Reddit discussions even describe growing frustration from investors who believe communication from the team remains too slow. Reddit +1. And once community trust starts weakening in crypto, markets often react brutally, because crypto prices are driven not only by technology, but by belief. And right now, that belief appears divided. Some investors still see PI as an unfinished giant. Others see a dangerous experiment struggling under the weight of its own expectations. And honestly, both sides have arguments worth understanding. Because PI Network is not a simple scam story. The reality is much more complicated. The project clearly built one of the largest crypto communities on Earth. That alone is an enormous achievement. But massive communities alone do not guarantee long-term success. Eventually, real utility matters. Real adoption matters. Real economic sustainability matters. And this may become the defining moment for PI Network, because the future of the project likely depends on one critical question. Can the ecosystem generate enough real-world demand before supply pressure becomes overwhelming? If the answer is yes, PI may still survive and evolve, but if adoption remains slow while more tokens unlock into circulation, the economic pressure could become extremely dangerous. At the end of the day, nobody can predict the future of PI with certainty. Maybe the project eventually succeeds. Maybe the ecosystem matures slowly over time. Maybe the massive community becomes its greatest strength. Or maybe the years of delays and supply pressure eventually destroy investor confidence completely. But one thing is certain: PI Network has already become one of the most controversial experiments in crypto history. And the next few years may decide whether it becomes a revolutionary success or one of the biggest disappointments the crypto industry has ever seen. Because in crypto, hope alone is never enough. Eventually, every project must prove itself to the market. And the market is always ruthless. Crypto Crime Files Analysis. Now here's our analysis at Crypto Crime Files. PI Network is not a simple scam story, and at the same time, it is not a normal crypto success story either. The project clearly achieved something extraordinary. It built one of the largest crypto communities in the world. That alone is a massive accomplishment. Millions of people trusted the vision. Millions continued mining for years. And very few crypto projects ever managed to create this level of global attention. But the real problem begins after the hype, because eventually, every crypto project must prove itself through results. And this is where serious concerns start appearing around PI Network. At Crypto Crime Files, we believe the biggest danger surrounding PI is not necessarily fraud. It is uncertainty, long delays, weak transparency, massive future supply pressure, and growing frustration inside the community. Because the longer people wait, the harder it becomes to maintain trust. Especially when expectations were built for years around life-changing wealth. And honestly, the tokenomics create one of the biggest risks we have seen in large crypto communities. Right now, only a fraction of the total supply is circulating publicly. Yet the price already struggles heavily. So naturally, many investors are asking, what happens if tens of billions of additional PI tokens eventually enter the market? Because without enormous real-world demand, massive supply expansion can destroy price stability completely. And this is not fear-mongering. This is basic market economics. Another concern is decentralization. When very large amounts of supply remain connected to ecosystem-controlled wallets, people naturally question how decentralized the system truly is. And in crypto, trust matters enormously, especially when millions of users are emotionally invested in the project's future. But at the same time, we also believe many people underestimate the power of the PI community itself. Because communities this large are extremely rare, if the team eventually delivers real utility, strong ecosystem growth, real payment adoption, and transparent development, then PI could still survive long-term. But if delays continue for years, while utility remains weak, confidence may slowly collapse over time. And once crypto communities lose belief, recovery becomes extremely difficult. So our conclusion at Crypto Crime Files is simple. PI Network is currently standing between two futures. One future where it becomes a legitimate global crypto ecosystem, and another future where years of hype and delays slowly destroy investor trust. Right now, nobody truly knows which direction it will go. But one thing is certain, the next phase of PI Network may become the most important moment in the project's entire history, because eventually, the market stops listening to promises and starts demanding results. If you enjoyed this investigation and want more videos exposing controversial crypto projects, subscribe to the channel. Welcome to Crypto Crime Files, where we uncover the dark side of crypto, failed projects, blockchain controversies, and hidden stories behind the market. And remember, in crypto, always research before trusting promises.